We have the Resistance finding a new fleet. We have First Order attacking Kashyyyk. We also have lava zombies. Plus, we return to Chow Min's Cantina all this week on Star Wars Weekly. Hello fellow Star Wars fans, it is Starrapter and welcome back to the channel. But if you're new, I do this every single week. I break down the latest in the comics, novels, TV series, and more. This is a big week. We have Star Wars Allegiance issue number 4. We have Dr. Aphra Annual number 3. We have Star Wars Adventures number 27, as well as the last issue in Return to Vader's Castle. That is issue number 5. So let's get right into the final issue for the miniseries Star Wars Allegiance. We're wrapping things up. We have the two-pronged story approach. We have Poe Dameron and we have Finn. They are on this planet called Aphra. They're going to this old Republic base, getting munitions, getting some arms to build up the resistance. They are being pursued by bounty hunters, and they do get away just by the skin of their teeth. And now the Kendo gang is short one extra member, and then we'll see them again in the Galaxy's Edge comic that released earlier in the year. And meanwhile, we have Leia, Rey, and Rose and Chewie. They are on Mon Cala, and well, they were just bombarded by a bomb going off, and basically, we have Rey saving everybody by using the Force. It's a really awesome moment. Then we get into the First Order is arriving, right? The First Order knows the Resistance there. They're going to root them out. But we have all of our friends joining together and actually having this beautiful speech with Leia, persuading the king, Ek-Char, and in doing so, he condemns Nasiri general, the general there, the Quarren general that has been kind of going against him the whole time, to join forces. And well, we do get more Resistance ships that have joined the Resistance fleet. So we have a Mon Cala cruiser that gets away, a couple casualties along the way because there's a blockade of First Order ships. But other than that, it was a win for the Resistance. So getting into things a little bit deeper, I do really enjoy seeing Rey and Rose fighting together and kind of playing out, tracking down this saboteur in the beginning of the issue. It shows how much Rose has grown as a character, and she's not as timid anymore. She's a lot more courageous, a lot more heroic. We also have a lot going on with this whole Poe sequence, and I think what it really does well is show that bond between Finn and Poe that we haven't really seen a whole lot since The Force Awakens. So we're seeing a lot of Poe's piloting skills, especially if you've read the Poe Dameron comics. We know how adept he is and why he is the leader of Black Squadron. You know, he was trained, as we learned earlier in the week, that he was trained by Wedge Antilles, one of the greatest pilots of all time. So we see some great example of why he is so good at what he does when Finn jettisons himself out of an airspeeder to take out one of the ships that Kendo gang have, and he basically ejects, and Poe positions it perfectly, gets him in there. It was a really miraculous save. Really cool stuff there. I do like seeing that General Nasiri was able to sacrifice himself to buy time for the Resistance to escape, although I thought it was kind of crazy that his one little ship was enough of a distraction to get everybody out safely. Granted, yes, the Star Destroyers did eventually catch up to the ships escaping on the other side of the planet, but, you know, the blockade wasn't that much of a success for the First Order. And then we see at the end of this issue that Mon Cala, yeah, they are pretty much taken over from the First Order by the First Order. So we're going to see, like, what happens maybe in The Rise of Skywalker. But that is going to do it for this miniseries. This is the journey to Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker. My overall thoughts on this miniseries was I liked it better than the Phasma miniseries because this really explored more in depth with the characters. I was disappointed that we didn't get a whole lot from Kylo Ren. Now, the moments that we did get from Kylo Ren were brutal. You see how after his loss at the Battle of Crate, not being able to, you know, kill his master Luke in the flesh and actually having everybody escape on the Falcon, he is just going on a rampage. So it was nice seeing that. I wish we could have seen a little bit more. I do like the Shattered Empire one a little bit more than this because it really went into a lot with what's happening directly after Return of the Jedi because it was a really great continuation and it did build up on really interesting things with the Emperor. Whereas this felt more self-contained. I did enjoy that we got all the main heroes, especially with characters like Rose, and we're really seeing how far they have come. So yes, I would definitely recommend that you read this before The Rise of Skywalker, for sure. Next up for Marvel Comics, we have Dr. Aphra. This is the annual issue number 3. this is called The Arrangement. So this is a one-shot story based on the characters of Winloss and Nokk, as well as we have an appearance of Black Kirsan, or as he's mentioned in this, Santi. So this is all a job put out there by Dr. Aphra. Remember that Winloss and Nokk had basically let her live because they thought she was so pathetic she wasn't even worth killing. So this story gets into a bit of the backstory for Nokk and her Trandoshan, growing up in that society where she didn't agree with killing a Wookiee cub, basically. And then the leader of her pack says, well, if your weakness shows there, then I'm going to just kill your entire family for your weakness. It was just very much extreme thing to do. So fast forward years and years later, and we know that Dr. Aphra has the whereabouts of this clan leader that basically killed her whole family for Nokk. So this information they exchange, and it turns out that this whole kind of convoluted plot in this issue, I wasn't a big fan because I was kind of lost a little bit, where somehow Aphra had put Black Kirsantan as well as we have Winloss and Nokk that are all on the same playing field as far as they're all part of the same plan. This guy, this bartender at Chalmun's Cantina, who isn't Wooher, by the way, so I really want to know what happened to him in the meantime. And they do this quest with this different animal that was caged, and this animal is coveted by the Hutts. It's a very rare animal that they want to eat. Turns out that it's actually not the creature that they're looking for, but it's something very similar. And, well, guess what? They get conned. This bartender, as well as they find out the whereabouts of this certain person that was the leader of the clan of the Trandoshans, and next thing you know, they both get fed to the Rancor at Jabba's, and that's pretty much the story. So yes, I know, it sounds confusing because I'm still confused, which is why my explanation and summary is not the greatest, because I'm just a little bit lost. So if you guys know more about the story than I was able to put concise thoughts together on it, please let me know. I will say a couple cool things here is the cantina has these awesome security guns that if you try to get past the counter and jump over and steal money, they're going to blow you away. And we actually see evidence of that. I thought that was really a comedic a moment when you actually see through several panels of them trying to clean up the mess that was made of this one alien that tried to steal the money. It was nice seeing Black Kirsantan and seeing now where he is now. Remember, in the timeline, Aphra was saved by Darth Vader, so she is still like on the Imperial ships right now. She's, communicating remotely to Winloss and Nokk about this situation. We find out that Black Kirsantan was finally paid off in full. Remember, the whole comic of Dr. Aphra and some of the Darth Vader series was Black Kirsantan wanted to stick around Dr. Aphra because she owed him a lot of money. So that's why he was kind of helping her in the meantime. We find out that he pretty much got paid off completely, but he does have a bounty on his head from Jabba, because remember, like issue number 1 or 2 or 3 of Darth Vader, he was found working with Jabba and working with Boba Fett on finding out like the whereabouts of Luke Skywalker, or who Luke Skywalker was and all that. So it's interesting that we actually get to dive in a little bit deeper with Black Kirsantan for sure. But I did really enjoy the artwork by Elsa Charretier. I hope she does more artwork in Marvel Star Wars, because she's always doing work in the IDW Star Wars Adventure titles. So it's nice getting some kind of like new blood in the Marvel line, and as an annual, it's a pretty okay issue. Again, I'm lost. I wish I could understand a little bit better of what is happening here, but it basically comes down to Black Kirsantan, Winloss and Nokk. At the end of the story, they're both working together because their paths kind of collided on the same sort of mission. Okay, we're moving over to the IDW comics. We have 2 of them. We have the beginnings of the Rise of Skywalker tie-in for IDW Comics. This is Star Wars Adventures issue number 27. As always, we have 2 stories that make up this issue. The first one is called Ghosts of Kashyyyk Part 1. We also have Secret Agent Droids Part 1. I want to start off with the Chewbacca adventure. So we have Nien Nunb, we have the character of Chewbacca, and this Porg named Turbus. Yes, Turbus through the Twitterverse has been rallied upon because this one podcast group is called Tatooine Sons, and they kind of pitched Ryan Johnson the name of this Porg, and well, he's finally canon. So grats to you guys for actually, putting this name out there and getting it canonized. It's really fun. It's really cool. So this story is all about the First Order has occupied the planet of Kashyyyk. Unfortunately, the Wookiees are under blockade again, like they were by the Separatists. Then they were after that with the stormtroopers and the Imperials, and now they're stuck with another occupying force. So we have Chewie punching a hole with the Falcon through the defenses, gets down to the ground. The Resistance is fighting in the atmosphere against the First Order in the meantime, and Chewie's just basically going around and just trying to save as many of his people as he can by taking out these stormtroopers and getting them off the planet. So that is the gist of the story. So some certain things I think seen was really cool about this was they mentioned the Black Forest, and I don't know if that's ever been mentioned in canon up to this point. Now, in the Knights of the Republic game, there was a location that was like very deep in Kashyyyk called the Shadowlands, and now we know we're getting Jedi Fallen Order is going to have an entire planet to explore, Kashyyyk. I don't know if they're going to tie that in maybe with the Black Forest, or are they going to still be called the Shadowlands? We're not sure. They're a place that is said to have been haunted. So there's like, they talk about the ghosts and stuff like that. Now, I don't know if they mean like the personification of the ghosts are actually the First Order Stormtroopers. I think that was sort of how it was implied in the story. I also do like how they introduced this character of Beaumont as the human that obviously speaks Basic, because Nine Numb and Chewie and the Porg obviously can't speak Basic. So this character is, kind of narrating and translating for us as the audience. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I do want to talk about the Secret Droids Part 1 story as well. So we have another story set in between the Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. We have Poe Dameron. We have Leia. They're on this planet called Gorel. So if you've watched Star Wars Rebels, that's the planet they were on a lot of the time with the Ghost. So it has now been occupied by the First Order, and apparently C-3PO and R2-D2 and BB-8 are just kind of hanging out. They're bored. Next thing you know, they get a distress signal, and C-3PO, as the droid he is, he's not going to let this go by. He's got to see what's going on. And they find out that there's this young female Nautolan that is running around, and actually I don't believe she's a Nautolan, she's a Duros, I believe. There we go. And she's running around, she's got the slingshot, kind of reminds you of Ezra, which is kind of funny. She says that there's this communication relay, and if it gets out, expands across the entire planet, they are screwed, they'll never get the First Order out of there. So that's basically where this issue leaves off. There's this really touching moment where C-3PO buys into the cause of this child who he thought the cause was a much bigger resistance cell. Turned out it was just a kid. So, and that's how he reacts. It's just like, oh, you're just a kid. But then he was also reacting to earlier in the story to a flashback where, Poe and Leia are like, oh, he's just a droid. So he kind of like took that information about him when he said, you're just a kid, and believed the kid, believed the mission, because he's thinking in his own processor, his brain, whatever, that, oh, if I think of him that way, I think of myself as well as just a droid. I'm more than that. This kid is more than that. It's important. This is an opportunity to really have a good win for the Resistance, and that's kind of where this issue leaves off. So pretty good stuff here. We're going to get another issue in next month in November, as well as the final issue of this sort of mini-series coming out in December, right before the movie. And here we go, the last comic of the week. This is Return to Vader's Castle, issue number 5, Night of the Lava Zombies. And this is one hell of a way to go out swinging with the final issue in this amazing miniseries dedicated to the spooky elements of the Star Wars universe. So this story, again, we are focusing on the character of this rebel prisoner. His name is Hud. He's on the planet Mustafar at the castle of Vader. He's being tortured by Vinny, and the last place we pick up, there's this Inquisitor, the Fourth Sister, has him at sword point, and next thing you know, it opens up, there's this fight between Vinny and his Inquisitor, and in doing so, Vinny is brought up of the memory of an envoy from years past on Mustafar, and then we go into this little flashback. This envoy arrives. Next thing you know, there's a lot of damage, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of noise in the meeting with Darth Vader. He goes to check it out. Next thing you know, there's a gigantic lava flea that breaks through the barricades. And next thing you know, it's all out hell because there is lava. There's lots of these creatures crawling through, attacking. And next thing you know, it turns out that these are possessed creatures. You have the Mustafarians. We found out that one of the Starrapters gets possessed and a royal trooper gets possessed. If you get bitten, you turn into a zombie, like The Walking Dead in Star Wars. And next thing you know, Vader even succumbs, at least we think, to a bite. And it turns out he was goading the mother of all these creatures, this priestess that if you've played Vader Immortal, looks very similar to that person. And she's the one that is actually pulling the strings of all these zombies. She has this magical scepter that's able to, I guess, manipulate life in a sense, and able to create these creatures to do what she wants with her will. Turns out that this creature bit the robotic arm of Vader. So what he did was he was able to draw out this leader of this cult, whatever you want to call it, use the Force, and just pretty much wills her power to do a Jedi mind trick or a Sith mind trick. I don't know what you call the dark side version of that, right? To have her own people throw her into the fire to kill her. I mean, it doesn't get much more evil and dark than that, right? Just using her voice, and then she commands her own troops to basically kill her. I mean, come on. This is awesome stuff right here, right? Again, this is an all ages book, but, you know, this skews more toward a mature audience, especially at this point of the story. It was really, really cool. So anyway, we go back to the current times. We have HUD, and it turns out the fourth sister is actually Lena Graff, who was one of the people that was originally with him in the original Tales from Vader Castle that came out last year. So she is fighting up against Vinny, and then a really cool thing is HUD throws out this like optical illusion with all these different beings from the previous stories and the previous issues. Like there's an image of Jabba the Hutt, there's an image of Ventress, there's an image of Maul. Lots of cool stuff there that pops up, distracts him, and they get away. But unfortunately, Vinny is reprimanded, and Vader actually is going to torture the heck out of him, and that's when it says that there might be more coming in the future. That's pretty much an affirmation that yes, probably next year, around the same time in October, we'll probably get more stories that are spooky in the Star Wars universe. So some certain things I want to just point out. First off, Vinny, seeing him in combat with that scythe, kind of like the Grim Reaper against Lena Graff, that we figured out who it was, as her in the Inquisitor garb. Really cool stuff there. We also see a Theta-class shuttle, which is the same shuttle that Palpatine arrived in during Revenge of the Sith on Mustafar to save Darth Vader. That was really cool. And I just love the thought that this is bringing back Death Troopers, right? I mean, we've already seen zombies in Star Wars. If you watch the Clone Wars, I think the episode's called Massacre. It's on Dathomir, and it's with the Night Sisters. They get possessed, and they get brought back to life to try to take out the Separatists. Same sort of thing there, but in a different kind of sense. And these are fire zombies, so it's even creepier, right? Just really cool seeing, like, the connections to Vader Immortal, and seeing, like, the same kind of design of this, like, Mustafarian priestess, and, like, learning, like, what the heck the staff, the power that she's able to kind of possess here. Just really awesome stuff all around. Just my overall review of Return of Vader's Castle is I enjoyed Return of the Vader's Castle even more than the original Tales from Vader's Castle that came out last year. I think every one of these stories was awesome. It's really hard to say what my favorite is, because I really enjoyed the Maul one with like him stalking down and taking out those kids. But then I really did enjoy last week's with the Night of the Living Brain, or whatever it was, with the Living Brain, with the Bomar monks, and learning about the Bomar monks. I think the Size Ventress one was okay, but I really did enjoy this one, especially with the fire zombies. Oh man, it's so hard to just make a choice on which one I like the most. But I'll leave that to you decide. What do you think was your favorite story out of all these 5? Because I'm just stumping my brain and just trying to think about it. But I highly recommend picking these up. They should probably be in a collected version of like a trade paperback. Hopefully sooner rather than later. So next week, we can look forward to a brand new novel, the one I've been waiting for a very long time. We have Resistance Reborn coming out. So my review hopefully will be up towards the end of next week. Can't make any promises, but you better believe I will be spending as much time that I have for free next week reading that book. We're also going to get Star Wars issue number 74, I believe, as well as Dr. Aphra issue number 38. So that is going to do it for my reviews this week. It's a bit of a longer episode because there was a lot to talk about with the comics. 4 issues, that's a lot of content right there. But there's been a lot of other content around the Star Wars universe. We have a trailer for The Mandalorian, so I put up my reaction and my breakdown of that trailer. Plus, we also got a trailer for the launch of Jedi Fallen Order, which is out in basically 2 weeks. Both of those. Mandalorian is out in 13 days of recording this, so I'm very much looking forward to that. If you guys want to keep up with my reviews on Star Wars Resistance, on the upcoming Mandalorian, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to that channel so you never miss any of that content. That is going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also included 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.